Jay, a high school senior, was enjoying a relaxing moment in her parents' pool when her sister Kelly showed up with an irresistible invitation. A movie night with their friends Paul and Yara. Of course, nothing like popcorn and scares to spice up the routine. But Jay, always the romantic, had other plans. A date with her new boyfriend, Hugh. Kelly wished her luck, and off Jay went, dressed elegantly and with flawless makeup, for a night that promised to be magical. Well, it promised. The date started off well, featuring a peculiar little game at the cinema. The rules were simple. Pick someone in the crowd to be, and the other person had to guess who and why. Hugh chose a child because, according to him, kids live happily and can even pee their pants without judgment. Poetic. But the light-hearted mood evaporated when it was Jay's turn. Hugh pointed to a girl in a yellow dress, but Jay saw no one there. In a panic, Hugh insisted they leave immediately, rushing Jay to a cafe. She was intrigued by his strange behavior, but her sister advised her to ignore it and move on. After all, first dates can be awkward. Little did she know just how awkward this one would become. On their second date, things heated up in the back seat of Hugh's car. Classic, right? Everything seemed normal until Hugh threw in a shocking plot twist. He chloroformed Jay, and she woke up tied to a wheelchair in an abandoned warehouse. Super romantic scene. He then calmly explained that, during their intimate moment, he had passed a curse onto her. Now, a mysterious entity would relentlessly pursue her, taking any form, even that of a loved one. The only way out? Passing the curse along. In other words, a supernatural STD. Still trying to decide whether this was a nightmare or just the worst date in history, Jay saw the creature approaching, and Hugh used the opportunity to illustrate the seriousness of the problem before dropping her off at her house and vanishing. Typical. The police were called, but there was no concrete evidence beyond Jay's psychological trauma. Meanwhile, her paranoia skyrocketed, and everything seemed suspicious, even a random ball rolling through the window. But the real terror began at school when a creepy old lady appeared, walking straight toward her, unnoticed by anyone else. Panic mode activated. Jay fled to find her friends and tell them everything. They were split between believing her and thinking this was just post-weird boyfriend hysteria. Nevertheless, they decided to support her and spend the night together. In the middle of the night, a window shattered, and Jay saw a disturbing woman urinating on the floor before marching toward her. That was the final sign Jay needed to grab her bike and bolt, leaving everyone behind. Her new survival tactic? Wandering around until exhaustion and hoping the supernatural would lose patience. After roaming the city, Jay stopped at a playground, reflecting on her life, which, just days earlier, involved simpler dilemmas like choosing between chocolate or strawberry ice cream. Her friends found her and tried to calm her down. But things got even weirder when Greg, the handsome neighbor, randomly showed up to check on her. By this point, it was clear that no one really knew how to handle the situation, but one basic horror rule remained. If someone tells you they're being pursued by something invisible and immortal, maybe it's best to listen carefully. An interesting fact is that director David Robert Mitchell intentionally created a timeless feel in the film, blending old and new technologies to leave the audience disoriented about when the story actually takes place. Now, between us, if I were Jay, I definitely wouldn't just sit around waiting for a supernatural being to catch me. But I also wouldn't trust a guy who had already drugged me once. And you? If you were in her place, what would be your strategy to escape the creature? Leave your opinion in the comments. Jeff explains this basic rule to Jay after tying her to a chair, just to make sure she understands the gravity of the situation. Greg, one of Jay's friends, thinks this is just an elaborate prank, while Jeff, now completely panicked, insists that she needs to do what he did. Pass the curse along. Easy, right? Like a game of tag, but with slightly more deadly consequences. Since no one has any brilliant ideas, they do what any group of friends would do: investigate. They discover that Hugh is actually Jeff Redmond and track down his house, where his mom welcomes them casually. But Jay realizes that the entity had already taken the form of Mrs. Redmond before, which is a huge red flag. After another panicked warning from Jeff, the group decides it's time to hide. Greg suggests they go to his family's lake house because, of course, fleeing to an isolated location always works in horror movies. Meanwhile, Jay's sister suggests that she pass the curse to someone else. Jay, understandably, isn't too keen on that idea. During their beachside break, the entity, now in ultimate chameleon mode, arrives disguised as Yara and grabs Jay by the hair. What follows is a horror show where only Jay and her friends can see the monster. Paul, stepping up as the impromptu hero, tries to attack it with a chair. Yes, a chair. because clearly no one thought of using actual weapons. Completely panicked, Jay steals Greg's car and speeds off, but the plan backfires when she crashes and ends up in the hospital. Greg, still skeptical, becomes the entity's next target. Jay realizes this too late when she sees Greg himself, or rather the disguised entity, entering his house. She tries to warn him, but Greg, like any stubborn horror movie character, ignores the danger. As a result, the entity, now transformed into Greg's mother, talk about lifelong trauma, eliminates him mercilessly. Terrified, Jay drives away, enters the water, and swims toward a group of strangers on a boat, subtly hinting that she might have passed it on. Whether she did or not, the film leaves unclear. Back in town, Paul suggests a revolutionary plan, electrocuting the entity in the school's swimming pool. The monster, however, isn't playing along, and instead of obediently stepping into the water like a good vengeful spirit, it starts throwing electrical appliances at Jay's head. The plan fails spectacularly until Paul finally manages to shoot the entity after Kelly throws a bedsheet over it to reveal its location. Jay breaks free, and when the group looks at the pool, everything is covered in blood, suggesting the entity might finally be gone. Now comes the moment of reflection. Clearly, this isn't just about an entity chasing you like it's on an endless treadmill workout. The film serves as a metaphor for the irresponsibility in intimate relationships, and that message is just as terrifying as the monster itself. Additionally, director David Robert Mitchell revealed that the idea for the film came from a recurring nightmare he had, where a mysterious figure slowly pursued him. That explains a lot. Now, if I were in this situation, I would never have gone to an isolated location. Seriously, why do they always pick places in the middle of nowhere? I would have stayed in a crowded shopping mall 24/7. And I definitely wouldn't open the door for my mom if she had a weird expression at 3 a.m. Learn from Greg's mistake. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. It's already on the screen. Just click. See you there.